After our father passed away, my long-lost sister suddenly returned home. Initially, I suspected her motive was inheritance, but it turned out to be my husband. My sister and my betraying husband eloped together. Although I was shocked, a year after their departure, I faced an unexpected ending. My name is Hannah, I'm 30 years old. I'd like to share a story from a few years back, involving family troubles. During my school days, I lived with my parents and my older sister, Kimberly. We were quite well off financially. As we grew up, Kimberly started skipping school in her teens and secretly took money from our parents to hang out. Despite being reprimanded, she would shout, "None of your business." Kimberly and our strict father always had a poor relationship. After high school, she moved away. Looking back, I think our parents knew where she was. My mother mentioned they sent her some money, but we lost contact. Originally, my sister and I, who had opposite personalities, were neither particularly close nor on bad terms. The lack of communication didn't bother us much, as we hadn't been very involved with each other in the first place. And we continued our lives without much concern for her absence. When I was 27, I had a boyfriend named Sean, considering marriage. Sean was 4 years older than me, a man with slightly long hair. He joked about his fast-growing hair and beard. Sean later became my husband. 7 months before our wedding, I went dress shopping with my parents at a shop owned by a family friend. That was probably the peak of my happiness. The following month, just as I was filled with excitement about leading a happy life from now on, my father suddenly collapsed. He temporarily recovered but passed away 6 months later. Our wedding was postponed. Amidst my grief, Kimberly appeared out of nowhere. "Hey, there. I'm going to stay here from now." With such nonchalant words and clutching only a small bag of belongings, Kimberly casually showed up at our family home. According to our father's will, my mother and I inherited most of his estate, with a small portion going to Kimberly. Kimberly said, "I might have been on bad terms with Dad, but not with you. I rushed back to attend your wedding after hearing from Mom. I thought she returned because she was out of money. She claimed her absence was due to our father, not because she didn't want to return. I thought about asking her what happened to her job. But considering it was our first meeting in over 10 years, I felt it would be impolite to ask such a question during this long-awaited reunion. So I decided not to ask." Months later, I married Sean. We met through friends and married after a year of dating. I hadn't shared much about my family with him. When Sean first saw Kimberly at our family home, he was surprised. "You have such a beautiful sister." Ah. Yes. Though artificial, Kimberly had become stunningly beautiful over the years. Sean seemed to admire her, helping her whenever she needed, almost like a servant. Despite never making coffee for me, he would always cheerfully offer to my sister, "Kimberly, are you thirsty? Would you like some coffee or water? If you need any other drink, I'll go buy it for you." Wow, not many people can pull off designer brands like you do. Beautiful, wealthy, and kind, you're flawless. Sean praised my sister Kimberly like that. She seemed pleased with the compliments. In the end, my husband was just a typical man. If there's a beautiful woman in front of him, it seems he's likely to wag his tail like that. If a handsome actor I liked was in front of me, I'd probably act the same way. Since Kimberly is my sister and we share the same genes, I wasn't too bothered by it. Then one day, Sean asked me a question out of the blue. "I know it's a bit late to ask, but your family is really wealthy, right? What did your father-in-law do?" He was into real estate, stocks, and other investments. Originally, he was an executive at a major company. Wow. So, there must have been a lot of inheritance, right? You must have received some, too. If you have money, why not share a bit with me? How much did you inherit? I lied to him about the amount. Just about $1,000. Most of it went to my mother and then to Kimberly.
Ah,
That makes sense. Most of it would go to your mother as the wife. So, Kimberly's collection of designer stuff is thanks to the inheritance, huh? I get it now. Muttering to himself, Sean went back to his room. I lied about the amount because of Sean's reckless spending habits. He may have been joking when he asked for a share, but there was seriousness in his tone. He's the kind of person who spends whatever he has, so I couldn't possibly give him a large sum. He would spend it all in a day, and that's why we manage our finances separately. From that day, Sean's behavior towards Kimberly became increasingly excessive. Around the time we were about to celebrate our second wedding anniversary, Sean told me he wanted a divorce. I was shocked and asked him why. I can't see you as a woman anymore. I don't want children with you, and it's better to divorce sooner rather than later, he said. I was shocked to realize he didn't see me as a woman. Though it was painful, I accepted the divorce, thinking there's no point in an unloved marriage. But then, an even more shocking event occurred. Sean remarried Kimberly and they eloped. The partner was my sister Kimberly. I found out about this when, a week after Sean divorced me and left our shared apartment, leaving me stunned. My mother called me with the news. You might already know, but Kimberly and Sean got remarried. They said they're starting a new life together and just left. I was speechless at my mother's words, only then realizing Sean had left me for Kimberly. Then, a timely message notification. It seems Sean likes me. Sorry for taking him away. I agreed to the inheritance distribution without complaint because I heard from a friend you were getting married. Get it? I temporarily came back with the intention of taking Sean. I didn't expect it to be so easy, but you were loved by our father and have money. So it's no problem for you, right?
goodbye.
I laughed at Kimberly's betrayal, wondering why I had to go through such sorrow and why I deserved this treatment. Furious, I blocked Kimberly's contact. I was sure their relationship wouldn't last, and that was evident. About 6 months later, I received a call from my ex-husband, Sean. He exclaimed, "Didn't Kimberly receive most of the inheritance? What do you want all of a sudden?" I'm overseas and tried to get Kimberly to pay, but she says she has no money. She won't talk to me, so I had no choice but to contact you. And why are you contacting me about this? You said Kimberly had money. So I was counting on it. It's your fault I can't pay, so send me money right now. I never said Kimberly had money. Why should I help someone who betrayed me? Don't call me again. I hung up and immediately blocked Sean's number. 3 years later, a year had passed since my divorce from Sean. Of course, I was refusing any contact, but since then, I hadn't heard anything from Sean or my sister Kimberly and had been living peacefully. My job was going well, and I was enjoying my time with friends on my days off. Then, one day, I had an unexpected visitor. When the doorbell rang, I checked the monitor and saw a shaggy, suspicious-looking man standing there. Maybe shaggy is an exaggeration, but at best, he was a dirty-looking old man. Who is it? Open up. Excuse me, who are you? It's me. Who is a me? Your ex-husband, me. Sean. Brushing aside his hair, the shaggy man revealed his face. It was Sean, unrecognizably changed with long hair, a bushy beard, and a much heavier figure. I need to talk to you. I was hesitant to let him in, so I decided to talk outside. What do you want? Where's Kimberly? Well, actually. Sean spoke in a low voice, explaining that after their trip, they ran out of money and resorted to cash advances at overseas ATMs. Sean, prone to overspending, had little savings, and had been counting on Kimberly's money. And? What about Kimberly? I don't know. I managed to return from abroad. But Kimberly and I had a huge fight while traveling. We ended up divorcing. What? You betray me and then divorce so quickly? That's why I came. Let's start over again. What are you talking about? Who would marry a cheating, debt-ridden man without any benefit? And you're just after money, aren't you? Sean grimaced and sighed when I hit the nail on the head. It's all your fault. If you hadn't lied about Kimberly having money, we'd still be married. If you won't restart with me, then pay back the money I used for cash advances. That's your own fault for misunderstanding, and it's what you deserve. There's no love in a relationship where someone cheats for money. What's the point of marrying? Love?
Ha!
I wouldn't have married you if your parents didn't have money. You couldn't handle that much money anyway. Just give me the money and be quiet. Sean raised his voice angrily. If you're going to act like that, I have something to tell you. I didn't want to get involved, but what I told Sean was about his cheating.
Ha!
Bringing up cheating now, what's the point? You're not going to ask for compensation now, are you? Did you know? You can claim compensation for infidelity up to 3 years after a divorce. Sean's eyes widened in surprise. But there's no proof. Anyone can say they cheated. Sean tried to sound confident, but he was clearly flustered. I showed him a photo from my phone. Can you still say that after seeing this? Sean turned pale at the sight of the photo. How do you have evidence like that? The photo I showed was evidence of Sean and Kimberly's affair. I had received it from my mother. After the divorce, I began visiting my parents more often. During one of these visits, my mother suddenly started talking. Now that you've moved on, I should tell you. Sean and Kimberly were having an affair even before your divorce.
Ah.
Yes, well, that figures. Sean was totally smitten with my sister, Kimberly. My mother continued. She had been debating whether telling me would be for my benefit or whether it was better to keep silent. Before she could decide, Sean and I suddenly divorced. According to my mother, she had stayed silent until now because Sean and Kimberly had left together without a word. Well, I don't really care anymore. It was a shock at the time, but there's no evidence of their affair. And it's too late to claim any compensation now. As I said this, my mother produced an envelope from the table. I might have missed the right timing, but there is evidence. Inside the envelope my mother handed me were photographs proving Sean's and Kimberly's affair. What? How did you get these? I thought they might be useful if you ever needed them. So I hired a detective to gather evidence. Your father also wanted you to be happy. Use them if necessary. My mother had said this to me.
Ha!
Even if you try to claim compensation, you won't get anything from me. I'm broke. I'm just a part-timer now. Sean had quit his job to elope with Kimberly. He lived as unemployed while they were abroad and, failing to become a kept man, was begrudgingly working part-time. That's fine. Working part-time is enough. A lawyer will be contacting you soon. Hearing the word lawyer, Sean panicked. Wait. I get it. I apologize for everything. I was blinded by money and cheated with your sister, Kimberly. But I regret it. Forgive me. I'll do anything. I never thought you were like this before our marriage. The only thing I regret is marrying you. If you have any business with me in the future, do it through a lawyer. Sean listened to my words, shoulders slumped. Seeing the fallen figure of my former husband kneeling on the asphalt, I felt a sense of clarity. It seems I had been grieving deep down all this time. I proceeded to claim compensation through a lawyer. Sean resisted for a long time but eventually agreed to pay in installments. Of course, I also claimed compensation from Kimberly. After divorcing Sean, Kimberly had been working at an acquaintance's place but had fled from men she had previously exploited for money. Without money or prospects, Kimberly, aimlessly wandering, returned to our family home only to say, "I'm sorry. I envied your happiness and acted on a whim," while crying. But we knew Kimberly's character. She probably thought a quick apology would let her stay at home again. "Even if Hannah forgives you, you're not staying here. Find a job with lodging or figure something out." When my mother said this, Kimberly, face down at the table, cried, "That's terrible." But her act was meaningless, as my mother firmly stated. Crying like that won't change anything. Kimberly left the house in silence. A year has passed, and I'm still making Sean and Kimberly pay their compensation in installments. Why go to such lengths when I have money? It's not about letting things slide, it's because I want to punish them. Until they finish paying the compensation, Sean and Kimberly will have to work hard. This is exactly what they deserve. I use the compensation from both of them to fund my hobbies, leading a fulfilling life.